Hello and welcome to Spotlight Indie. I'm your host, Frasier Armitage, part-time robot, full-time nerd, and author of Cage of Stars, among other things. And joining me as co-host today is the amazing Amber Poppitt. Amber, how's it going?
Very well, actually. Very, very cheerful for a Monday, which is unusual for me. It's always a bit of a grumpy start to the week, but yeah, in high spirits today.
You can be grumpy, Amber. It's all good, you know.
No,
It's
no.
No, it's great to have you. This is Amber's first time on the YouTube channel, so
Yes, it
show
is.
Amber some love in the comments. But obviously, we know Amber, we love Amber, and you'll have seen her articles on the website on spotlightindie.co.uk. So yeah, it's great to have you along, Amber. Joining us as our special guest is an incredible author whose most recent book is very recently out. It's called Artifacts and Enigmas. It is the very talented Darran M Handshaw. Darran, how's it going?
Hi, great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to have you. Absolutely great. This isn't your only book, is it? Artifacts and Enigmas. You have others.
No, so this is my third book. I've got before that I have two big chunky novels, right? You could tell they're doorstops. So The Engineer was my first, which is a pretty old book at this point. It's almost 10 years old. And Dark Heart of Redemption was a standalone sequel that I wrote for it, and they're about the same length. And Artifacts and Enigma is a little bit different because it's actually not it's not a single story. It's not a novel. It's a collection of short stories. So
Mhm.
I wanted to write something a little bit different. I noticed a lot of readers were interested in my books, but averse because it's so big. So it was like, well, I really wanted to get into your book and it sounded very interesting, but it's just so long. So I started writing some short stories then, and which has been an interesting experience that we could talk about.
Yeah, totally. Tell us about sort of what prompted the overall sort of desire to sort of like not just sort of put stories together, but which stories you put together. Because like when it comes to short story collections, they can be either themed or they can be wildly different from one another or anything like that. What was your approach that you took for Artifacts and Enigmas?
So when I finished writing Dark Heart of Redemption, it was the second massive epic story in the Redemption universe. So they all take place in kind of this fallen universe called Redemption, this fallen city. So it's like imagine like a really high tech version of New York City, um, and the apocalypse happened maybe thousands of years ago, and now um, basically portals open 100 years before this story starts and dump people with a medieval understanding of technology into the city, and they don't know what happened, why were they put there, what's going on, and they don't understand the language that was left behind here, and they don't understand any of the technology, so they're just trying to figure it out. A lot of them end up with that level of understanding, worshipping the technology. Some of them are trying to destroy it. They believe that it led to kind of the fall of the ancients that they call the people that used to inhabit the city. So they're trying to destroy it. So there are people called the keepers that are trying to destroy the artifacts that are still working because they think it led to the downfall of a people. There's other people that really worship it. And then some people called the lore sworn are people that want to study it and figure out how it works, but keep it to themselves for power and influence and stuff like that. So the main character in The Engineer is Actaeon, and he's an engineer that really is applying scientific method, like a rough early scientific method, to a lot of the artifacts that he finds, and trying to figure out what makes them tick, what are they actually doing, and how could he use them to kind of improve society, right? So The Engineer is kind of his origin story, like how does he end up doing the things he wants to do, and then Dark Heart of Redemption is more of a military fantasy, it reads like. So it's more of an epic, big stakes military fantasy where they're trying to save the city. So when I wrote these two, um, you really have to stay kind of on track with a through line, and there are little side things going on in both of these stories and side threads, but there are a lot of things that I wanted to explore as I was writing these kind of big world building things that you can explore with the with the novels because they get off track. So I started writing short story ideas down while I was writing, and I ended up having like a huge collection of just ideas jotted down, um, which many of them were just general story ideas that I will release at some point in something called Tales from Redemption, which is not out yet. I did write all those short stories. They need to be edited and formatted and stuff like that. But at the same time, I also had this idea, well, what if Actaeon worked with this kind of night investigator character named Aethelgard? And Aethelgard's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes character in the universe. So my boss at work had gotten me into Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock Holmes, I don't know if you've ever read it. The stories are all like episodic, but they kind of show the progression of like Sherlock Holmes and Watson's friendship and things like that. So there is a little bit of a through line in it if you read them in order. So I wanted to do something like that over the course of like 10 years in the Redemption universe, where these two characters are working together. And also not just to do like a Sherlock Holmes mystery thing, because that's been done so many times, but to do a little bit of like a MacGyver character like Actaeon is helping him solve tech mysteries specifically. So get a lot of the science fiction in there. So a lot of new ideas, and also use that as a way to explore the world of Redemption. You can see the pyramid behind them that's on the cover of my main book too. So it's all kind of tied in. But this helps us explore the universe a little bit more, and also gives 11 standalone short stories where these guys are solving mysteries together and kind of growing as a team and getting to know one another.
That's awesome. Do you know what it sounds a lot like to me, Darren, which is another comparison? So over here we have this show that's massive that I know that Amber is a huge fan of. It might not be as big across the pond, but I'm getting like Doctor Who vibes of like, character rocks up, got a mystery to solve. It's different every time, has the same helpers, and the thing you're really watching it for is the relationship between the Doctor and the helpers. It's like, I feel like Amber is probably like the authority on Doctor Who. So you're basically talking to your perfect reader, Darren.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, cool.
Definitely.
Cool. Yeah, so Doctor Who is very episodic too. I've seen a few of them. I don't really catch too many of them in the U.S., but I've seen a few of them. I don't know how mystery oriented are they?
I mean, it can depend. It's a very multifaceted show. 1 minute it's high concept fantasy, and then the next it can be very sort of survival horror, science fiction. So, but I think like your novels, because there's a perfect blend of that sort of hard sci-fi and on high world fantasy. It does feel a lot like that, and also yes, the sort of through line with the two characters is very similar in that respect. That kind of grounds you in this very heightened and magical world. So yes, I did when I started reading your first book, The Engineer, and bits of the Enigmas and Artifacts. I did notice or pick up on that vibe very much so, which was really nice, really welcoming.
Well, that's I guess the cool thing about their low understanding of technology is a lot of them, they know how to forge swords, right, and axes and spears and things like that. So a lot of them are really fighting almost medieval battles in the city over territories and fighting over resources and stuff like that. So there's a very fantasy feel to it, but then in the background I try to have a lot of hard science where any artifact that I explore, I've at least explored a little bit for myself and my own knowledge of how it would be made, or how we expect scientifically something like that would work in theory, to at least restrict how that artifact is going to operate, right? So I want to know at least theoretically how it could be made, even if it's not proven in science, right? Because it's science fiction. So it's a cool juxtaposition, I guess, writing it from like a fantasy character's perspective and swords and battles and things like that, but then also having these elements that are like really controlled by hard sance. And so I'm an engineer too. So I really I work as a engineer as my day job. So I like to have all of those different artifacts and stuff really linked by what can be possible, right?
So are you imagining these artifacts, and then are you in the place of Actaeon trying to figure out what they are?
Well, a lot of times, like if I come up with an idea, like there's a idea that there's a type of weapon that they find, and it probably wasn't originally used as a weapon, but they identify this artifact called a light lance in that could generate like a beam of light and cut through some things in Dark Heart of Redemption. And it's like a lance. So they hold it like a lance and they could sweep this light beam around and it could cut through things. So they realize at the beginning of the book, well, hey, we could use that in this war that's going on. And they also realize, there's always detriments to, things from an engineering standpoint. So, and they don't know why the things work. And a lot of the things aren't working the way they're supposed to because systems in the city are broken, right? A lot of things are linked together, or they're getting wireless power from somewhere and they don't know where it's getting it from. So one of the problems with the light lance is if they operate it for more than 30 seconds, it explodes. It's like a massive explosion and it kills the operator. So that's like a hard limit to the light lances as they're using it through Dark Heart of Redemption, that if they keep using it too much and they're under duress, they're going to blow up, and they might blow up people next to them too, which is terrible. And in some cases, they actually use it to their advantage, that they can blow this thing up. So there's a lot of fun things like that where I like to put those limits in place. But for myself, I research actually what, like how could that be done theoretically, right? With like hard light theories and things like that. And on a quantum level, how could that work? But the characters are just not going to figure that out for the most part, because a lot of them just have that medieval understanding. They do encounter people that are called the Starborn in the course of the series that have a better understanding, and they do encounter people that are actually ancients, or they're derived from the ancient culture, that their knowledge carried on somehow. So that happens in the books, and sometimes those people have more of an understanding and insight into it. But Actaeon has all these theories on it, and I like writing the theories, and sometimes he's correct, and sometimes he has got no idea what he's talking about. He's totally wrong. So when I'm writing the character, I kind of keep that in mind. Like sometimes he's just going to be wrong. He's not going to be right all the time.
I have a lot of sympathy for people who uses these light lances, because I'm so bad with technology. Anything I try to use for more than 30 seconds blows up anyway. So I'm used to it. Like,
yep.
No, it's very, very cool that you're able to bring that perspective, because it must, I mean, how informative was that, going back to when you first started out in this universe, because you've got so much lived in experience in this universe now. How has it kind of evolved almost like away from the engineering side into the realms of like, how far can we go with these stories and world building side? Has there been like a transition from where you started to where you are now?
I think so. So to give some background on the universe, this universe is actually, believe it or not created by me. It was created by my wife and her friend. And they made a text-based game back in the early I would say like 2008, 2009 they made it. So I started on a text-based game as a character. I was Actaeon. And I was trying to figure out a lot of these things, right? And there was just an amazing story that happened between my character and my wife's character, who's a Knight Arbiter that protects the neutrality of Pyramid, right? So they met, and the story around their meeting and their adventures after that was just amazing. And I wanted to write it into a book. The game is since defunct. It's been taken down, right? But I keep the universe alive, and I have permission to write in the universe from them. And since then, I've really developed it. So really, it was the area. Let's see. I got this map on the wall I could pull down. So this is the map of Redemption, right? So this is the city of Redemption and all the different kind of landmarks. Like there's Pyramid, and there's all the different dominions that are scattered throughout, right? So they, most of the stories took place in the game in Pyramid and around Pyramid. So really, they weren't traveling the city. It was just kind of a map that was there, so people could talk about like where their characters came from. So since then, I've developed a lot of like, what are the different artifacts that they had? How do they really work scientifically? And then really fleshed out some of those area locations, like had scenes take place in my books at those places that were not really, researched or, fleshed out in the game. And then since then, I've gone beyond, in some short stories, I've gone beyond that city to other areas in the planet. And then some of the short stories actually take place beyond the planet itself, because there's crazy, like high level sci-fi concepts that we I've come up with since then, which is a lot of fun to explore. Not so much like off-planet stuff and artifacts and enigmas, because it's these characters, based really around the pyramid area, trying to solve crimes and mysteries. But Tales from Redemption, I think when that comes out, I'm hoping in the next year or two, I'll have that out for readers, and you'll be able to see really interesting stories that go even beyond the city.
That's really interesting about your wife obviously was the foundation for this story. So does she have any input in this, in terms of when you were writing the engineer? Was she give you feedback, or did she sort of let you run wild with it?
So the engineer was interesting, actually, because a lot of it had been done already. So it was kind of like I was writing like almost like the history of the game, like something that had happened in this story arc. That so I was in the game. They have a lot of people kind of like dungeon masters in D&D, right? They called us tiny plotters. We ran plots through the game for the other characters and players. So I ran the plot. That was the interesting plot. So I was kind of the author of that. And then I was like, wow, at the end of it, I was like, this is an incredible story that happened. So I wanted to write it down. So a lot of that was looking at old logs and knowing what happened, and then kind of parsing it down and organizing it so it was a cohesive story through line. And then Dark Heart of Redemption was the standalone sequel that I wrote, which kind of picks up on the events after that. So I had a lot more freedom and stuff like that. So a lot of times I'll check with her where her character is involved, because she was Sandra, the Night Arbiter, and I want to see, would she have done this? Does this dialogue match what she would say, right? But also other aspects. Her friend Simon came up with a lot of the world building. So when I come up with some of the stories, I've run it past him, because I don't want to break stuff that he envisioned. I want to build on it, right? So I'll run that past them just to make sure I'm not doing anything that's not good, right? So I know I am broadening it a lot, but I don't want to run contrary to their theories.
I feel like I want to play this game. Like, this is
Same.
It was a lot of fun, yeah. And in its heyday, I guess it would have. It wasn't a huge game, but I guess if you follow the history of like text-based games, online multiplayer text-based games, a lot of people are familiar with MUDs or multi-user dimensions. A lot of those were, and you were showing the dice before we started the conversation, a lot of them were role-playing, like you'd roll the dice and see what your characters did. This game was more of a writing exercise, which is really cool. So it was created out of a kind of code called MUSH code, or multi-user shared hallucination. And it let you walk to different rooms, and the rooms were coded into the engine, and you could read the room description, and there were things you could do interacting with the room and other players. But for the most part, like if we were playing in the same room, Frasier, you'd pose what your character was doing in the room, then I'd go, and then Amber, you'd go, and then we go in kind of a turn order and rewrite what our characters were doing. And it was very important that, like, I don't write what your characters are doing at all. I will write what my character's doing and the aspects of the scene I'm controlling, and I don't tell you what you need to do, right? Like, you get to decide what your character does based on the background. So like Actaeon wasn't a great fighter. You could see he's got this halberd above me. So his idea with the halberd is like he could hook things with it. He could use it as a pry bar. It was really an engineering tool for him. But since he wasn't a great fighter, he tried to keep people at arm's length with that pole arm, because he couldn't fight very well. So he tried to keep you, at a distance and fend you off. So he was pretty good at that. But if you were going to pit him in battle against, like, say, my wife's character, she'd wipe the floor with him. So
I thought you were just going to say my wife. Then I thought it was like, yeah, same.
Yeah.
Like,
not that I'd be fighting her, but
yeah.
but yeah, like you kind of know what your character's capable of, and you would know they couldn't win in a combat situation against certain other characters based on their backgrounds. Yeah. So it's kind of a, we just. It was almost what do they say? Like just you look out for yourself, and you're honest to your character. And I forget what the term is that I'm looking for, but you want to make sure that your character is not doing anything they shouldn't be able to do, right?
Yeah, totally. I love it. I love that this is sprung from those origins, and I love that you've taken it in the places that you've taken it. That this is very much the inspiration for stories that you're inventing with artifacts and enigmas. That
Thanks.
this is, that this is that it has those roots, but that it has grown. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, and I took two of the NPCs because most people just played their own character that they wrote the background for. I like to play NPCs on top of my character. I think that's why I ended up running plot lines and things like that. So I had two NPCs in the game named Trench and Wave, and they were kind of these grizzled, like, you know, war veteran characters, and they'd banter back and forth. And Trench was this giant with a big scar across his face that had this big ugly maul that he'd kind of go berserk and he'd bash people. And then Wave was this short, suave kind of ladies man, and he would duel people with his rapiers, right? So these kind of opposite guys, and they had been veterans for the past wars that were in the universe. And Actaeon actually hires them because he's in the ruins, like looking for interesting artifacts and looking for supplies that he needs. And he can't defend himself very well, so he keeps getting into trouble. And in the Engineer, there are these raider characters that are after him, and he doesn't know why, but they're after him for some reason that we find out later why they're after him. So he needs protection, so he hires Trench and Wave. And they were in actually the game, and they were like comic relief. So they'd banter back and forth together and end up in all these silly situations. But they were really highly competent fighters. And I actually had other characters, other players ask me on the grid, we called it, was the game world. They would say, can I have just a scene with your NPCs? Because they love them so much. So they just want to have a role-playing scene with those guys. So I have them in the books, and they play a real pivotal role in them.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I can see it in Amber's eyes. Amber's just like, I need this. I need the game. Like it's
perfect. It is. Well, I'm a big D&D fan, so this is ticking all the right boxes. D&D and just writing the best of both worlds.
So those online text games used to be huge before MMORPGs, and then when the MMORPGs came out, most people just left. It was like a big exodus because they were at the time, like back in the 90s, there were hundreds of people on these servers at any time, and then it turned into like maybe there were 10 to 20 max. Because you saw this big exodus as people went to the graphic RPGs. But the problem with the graphic RPGs, and the same thing that we like to do as writers, you can't do everything. You have to code everything in, and you have to animate the characters and stuff. So you're really limited in possibilities with what can be done on the fly. Whereas a lot of people that stayed with the text-based RPGs really wanted that flexibility, and they enjoyed the writing process. So what we saw was like the quality of writing went way up on those games, which is a lot of fun.
I love it. And what I also love as well is that this universe that was created for the purpose of the game, now the game is not there anymore, but the universe is still alive in your books. And I love that because you've kind of made that universe almost like a little artifact, which is very, very meta. I love that. Yeah. So congrats, Darran. I think that's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, carries on. Lives on.
Yeah. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna mine your brain and really, really get to know you, because now we know your story and we know what your book is about. We're going to get to know you with our game, which is Roll for Insight. This is a game where the dice decides our destiny, and we have 20 questions. You're going to roll your digital dice, and we are going to each take it in turns, and we will basically be coming up with questions to throw your way, and they go from the sublime to the ridiculously sublime, these questions. So if you are quite ready to roll, Darran,
I'm good to go
for it. What's your first roll?
I'm rolling my Google die, and it is 18.
18's a cracking number. Okay, if you could have any superpower, what do you think would be most useful to your writing process? Which superpower?
The writing process. Freezing time.
Oh yeah,
it's a good one.
And here's why. I write once a week, and that's it. That's all I have time for, because I volunteer as a firefighter. I'm a full-time engineer. I'm a father. So I've just got so many things going on. But if I could just hit stop and just crank out a lot of book in 8 hours, like that would be something. So to give you an idea, like this took me 3 hours to write, or 3 hours. I wish it would take me 3 hours if I could pause time, but in real life, it took me 3 years, and then this one took me 5 years. Right.
Wow.
So right. So it's like a really long-term process for me. There's a group called Turtle Writers on Twitter that, really slow writers that they'll get it done eventually. And I would consider myself to be a turtle writer. Like I'm gonna get a book done eventually, but it's gonna take years. So I would be like Brandon Sandersoning it if I could pause time and just write whenever I wanted.
I love that answer. The only trouble I would have if I had that superpower is restarting time. I feel like I would have it paused and that would be it, right? It's What about you, Amber? Because you're writing at the moment, aren't you? So what do you think would be useful?
So I think I would quite like the ability to, and I don't know if this is stretching beyond the rules of it a bit too much, but I would like to create simulated environments, because I love to sort of role play scenes. I'll be writing a sequence with a character and I think, where's this going? This is going somewhere, but I'm not sure. And sometimes I wish I could just create a world where my characters could kind of be in the room and I think, right, okay, what's the space like? Where are they? What's going on around them? How would they interact with these different environments? So I quite love that sort of concept of having this sort of artificial space that I can sort of.
You want like a holodeck generator?
Yeah.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. I would love that.
I'm thinking like Professor X, Jean Grey, just like projects those kind of environments or like into people's brains, and I think you. Amber, I think totally.
It'd be good. I think as well, because I always struggle with geography. I remember once I was writing, it was the book I'm working on at the moment, but I remember giving it to my friend to do a bit of proofreading. And there was originally the character, the robot in it was I don't know why I made them really large for some reason. And I didn't realize that I had them going through doors and things in this story without realizing they were bigger than a door frame. So my friend went, it's good, but how's this robot getting between rooms? And I thought, oh yes, that's a good point actually. So I went back and I thought, if only I could see the room, I would have picked up on that very early on.
And it turns into a comedy where they smash through the door.
I tell you, I'm gonna go teleportation, like be able to visit anywhere, because then I could like get away from all of the pressures of life, right? And then I can go write with my writing buddies. I can just I could rock up and play a game with your wife and you, Darran, of this, and then I'd have a brand new story idea, and then pop over to Amber's, and then Amber would project something into my brain to make me see what I need to do next, and then writing would be easy. So I'm going teleportation, I think. But I mean, come on, is any superpower rubbish for the writing process? Like, what's the worst one, right? It's got to be like Johnny Torch, right?
Oh yes,
got fire around your notebooks, right?
Maybe super strength, right? Like you break your key, you're constantly breaking your keyboard.
You get really annoyed with a character and the entire computer's gone. It's like
you have to like go get another one every time.
or doing it underwater. Yeah, that would be rubbish.
Yeah.
Or
like who was it, Magneto, where you'd wipe the hard drive. You just wipe the hard drive. Like, damn it, I did it again.
Yeah.
Although the new ones are immune to that, so that's good for him, right? He can use computers now.
Yeah. This is. I think we are basically creating a world where Magneto would be safe. Everything's out of plastic, and it's immune. Computers are now immune to his powers. Like, this is whoever's making these decisions has seen X-Men and thought,
it clearly is Magneto, right? He's driving the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. You heard it here first, people. We're on to you, Magneto. Amber, it's your role. Have you got your dice?
I have, yes. Now, I've got very limited space, so I'm hoping I don't lose this behind the desk, but here we go. 11.
11. Oh, okay. What's your favorite gaming console of all time?
Oh, so, I mean, for me, it's it's got to be the PlayStation. I think the first original PlayStation, which is what really got me into gaming, and I think it sort of showed me the potential of storytelling within video games, because I mean, before that we had obviously like the SNES and the Sega Mega Drive and those, which were fantastic consoles, but it wasn't really until the PlayStation where we started getting things like Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII and all these very sort of narrative rich games that made me think, oh, actually, this has a lot of potential, and it kind of brought me into the medium and made me start to think, actually, this is one that we can take very seriously, sort of as a form of storytelling and a form of art. So yeah, I'd have to say that's the one that sort of got me into it, good and proper.
That's a really good answer. What about you, Darran?
So I go all the way. That's a tough question. I go all the way back to the Atari. Believe it or not, I'm aging myself. So yeah, when I was a little kid, my dad had an Atari, and I played some of the Atari games. Mostly played the original Nintendo, and then I didn't get an SNES. I think my parents didn't realize that these things you can't just use it forever. It's upgrading the generation. You need to update it. So I didn't really have a new gaming console from NES all the way to Nintendo 64. So, but I got at some point a SNES emulator, probably when I was in high school or something like that. And I played a lot of the SNES games that I never got to play, including Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger. And I got to say, that system, going back to the narratives, really had the first games that really hooked me on story. Whereas the NES was just like an exercise in frustration. Like you were just, you would die and start over again, and then die and start over again. It was kind of like a roguelike almost without the random levels, right? But with those games, it was the first time that you really had a persistent world that you really would not end game in. You would just hit very hard sections to get past. And Final Fantasy VI had just amazing characters, Terra and Locke and Edgar with his machines and stuff like that. So if you never play that game, I'd highly recommend that.
I was always Nintendo 64, and I've talked about this on the channel before. I am like, I will die on that hill. It's like, it's the greatest. I love my N64. Still have it. Still play it. It's the best. Still haven't completed Zelda. In terms of Final
Did you
Fantasy,
play GoldenEye? Was it
oh
GoldenEye?
yeah, GoldenEye was like,
that was the thing back then, right?
Yeah.
Everyone playing GoldenEye. That was like the first shooter game that you'd have your friends over for.
Oh, it was just the original multiplayer of GoldenEye and Mario Kart. You can spend entire days just playing that with your friends and never get bored. It's just the greatest. Like, but in terms of Final Fantasy, so my old next door neighbor, I didn't have a PlayStation, so I would go around to his house, and because he had a PlayStation, he had Final Fantasy VII, and I would watch him play it. I would just be obsessed with it. I'm now playing Final Fantasy VII because I'm just like going back into some classic games and replaying them. And
that was a great game.
I feel like I've made it as a gamer because I'm like, I finally get to play this game.
Are you playing the remake or the original?
No, the original.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's great. It's going back to a time when games were pushing like beyond like what games were. They were pushing into new areas for the first time.
And
it's like so exciting. So that whole era was just great. My 4-year-old looks at me like I'm crazy when I take out my Nintendo 64 cartridge and blow it.
That's awesome.
He's like, I didn't think we were allowed to do that, Dad. It's like, yeah, it doesn't work if you don't.
I got my original Game Boy working.
Yes.
Nice.
Last year, I think I pulled it out, and there's a line of dead pixels in it in the display. But other than that, it works. And my son was like, "Can I try it?" And he was playing it for a while.
Yeah, I had a Game Boy Color. So this is very early on into married life. I'd spent like a good, like, well, let's just say too much time building my perfect Pokemon, like, And I had them all. I had every one that I wanted. It was the perfect squad. I had them all at the XPs that I wanted them to be at. Come home from work one day, find that my wife has found it, my old Game Boy Color, and she started playing it. You know, the Pokemon game, Pokemon Blue, I had, and I said to her, please tell me you haven't saved it. She was like, yeah, I caught 2 Pokemon. Of course I saved it. And I was like,
no.
no! Like years of my life disappeared.
Oh.
Yeah.
Womp,
So
womp, womp.
so it's not, I mean, I love the Game Boy, but it's definitely a trigger word, like for me.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the old saves were just nightmarish. Like that's why I'm actually, because I'm so the iPhone game, or I have an Android, but the phone games are just terrible. I mean, they're just god awful. And I got an emulator on mine, so I'm playing Earthbound, and the fact that I could just save wherever I am, I could be in the middle of a battle, save. It works out so well. And back in the day, you'd lose like hours of progress.
Oh yeah.
As an adult, you can't deal with that.
Yeah.
You don't have the time.
Totally, right? Right, let's roll. So I have rolled a 19. I don't think I've ever rolled that high on this show.
All right.
Oh, okay. So this is a nice one. This will be a nice sort of like bring us round full circle thing. Sum up your latest work in progress in 3 words. So let's start with you, Darran.
In 3 words. That's hard to do in 3 words.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, right? I've got a cheat code for you if you want it.
Maybe Mercenary Awakens Elsewhere.
Oh, I like it. I love that you didn't just opt for Tales of Redemption. That is like...
Well, I'm not working on that actively. I'm actually writing a new novel now.
Oh,
so
great.
When I feel like it, I'll get back into editing Tales from Redemption. So
Mercenary.
So I'm working on Mercenary Awakens Elsewhere.
Oh, I love it.
Maybe I should use that as the title.
Yeah. Working title. Yeah, I love it. And what about you, Amber? What are your 3 words?
I mean, it's difficult, but what springs to mind, I will say, is robots and identity is where I'll go with that.
Ooh, I like it. I'm so for the one that I am currently drafting, I'm gonna say multiverse ridiculousness, like bonkers. I think that's basically I've decided to go insane on the page is what I'm doing with my next work in progress. So that brings us to an end of Roll for Insight. Darran, thank you for joining us. It's been great to get to know you, a little bit about your writing process as well. I'm sorry that I can't give you the ability to stop time. If I could, I would. But for everybody who's tuned in, if they love the sound of your books, which me and Amber obviously do, tell us where they can find you, where people can find you, where they can find your books, all of your socials and websites and stuff.
So I'm on Twitter, engineer7601. So if you want to interact with me, that's probably the best place to do it. I've got a Facebook page too that you can find me. I think it's Facebook or fb.me/Actaeon which is the name of the character. So I am working on a website. I'll get there eventually. I'm very slow, especially now that I have 3 books. And then my books are on Amazon in all 3 formats: ebook, paperback, hardcover. And then you can find me in other places if you don't want Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and I think almost any place that you could get digital books. I'm on through Draft to Digital. So, I love when people send me messages on when they're reading my book and want to talk to me about it. So don't hesitate to shoot me a message, even if you don't like it. It's always good to get constructive criticism.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. Anybody who hasn't read Darran's books, go get them. Go tell him what you think. That's amazing. Amber, where can people find you?
I'm all over the internet, fortunately. I've got lots of various social media profiles and websites. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm also on TikTok now. I started doing little shorts for that, which is very exciting. I am on X. Probably Instagram is the easiest to get in touch with me over. That's the one I tend to use the most. And it's just my name, so Amber Poppitt. If you search that, you'll find me. I also have a website, which is conveniently amberpoppitt.com. So that's where I do all my various essays, short stories, think pieces, stuff like that. And of course, I'm on the Spotlight Indie website as well. I have a twice weekly article there. So yeah, you can find me over there. And also, just one last one before I stop my rambling, but I'm also have a podcast, Control Alt Critique. So we have an Instagram and a TikTok, so you can find us there as well.
Yeah, go listen to Control Alt Critique. It's awesome. And you can find us, obviously, spotlightindie.co.uk, at Spotlight Indie on all of the socials. And next time, we'll be talking to Darran and we'll be proving that there's no such thing as a stupid question. So until then, stay awesome and thank you and goodbye.
Take care.